Hello once again and welcome to the Kohelet. I wish you a Merry Christmas, a happy winter solstice, a happy Yuletide, compliments of the season. Christmas is maybe not the most important feast in Christianity, but is the most celebrated. And it is also celebrated around the world. And this is a great opportunity for us to dive into why everybody celebrates Christmas and what Christmas really is, its origins, and what it signifies, as may be distinct from the impression that organized religions give to human beings. Before we dive into the meat of the teaching, we need to know what an egregore is. An egregore is what can be referred to as a psychic entity or a spiritual or occult entity that is fueled and powered by the collective group thoughts of a given set of people. Egregores are always attached to specific cultures, specific religions, and specific communities. It is the group mind that creates and sustains an egregore, which then gives the egregore actual existence, such that the egregore can in fact do things that the people who set it up would attribute to God. Say, God did this for me, God did that for me, God told me this, and God told me that. The reason why you have the issue of egregores arising from cultures is because every individual who is human is inherently a spirit being. Why do I say that human beings are inherently spirit beings? Because of the nature of how human beings came into existence. One important point that I have made ever since I started teaching through the medium of the Kohelet is that in order to know what we mean by God or who we mean by God, we must first pay attention to the rational understanding of existence. What is nature? How do we exist? In what form is existence? What form does existence take? And we see without difficulty that nature is based on energy. Energy is also referred to as electromagnetism. Some scientists prefer magnetoelectricity, as in they prefer magnetic to come first because they believe that sound precedes light, even though light and sound are basically the same in the sciences. If you like study from the angle of the unified field, the unified quantum field, light and sound are the same, but they are like polar opposites of the same thing. Sound precedes light and it excites elements, or let me say it excites waves and causes waves to vibrate in such a manner that depending on the frequency, waves could now become matter in one form or the other. Everything that is matter, everything that is solid is actually light and sound waves, but the solidity is obtained by the level of the vibration, that is the frequency of vibration. Anything that you consider to be solid, if you examine it under sufficiently close observation, as in if you zoom in to anything, no matter how solid, even if it's a rock, you will see eventually that it is made up of atoms and nothing else. And an atom is more than 99.999% space, empty space, they will call it, but it's not really empty space. What you have in that space that appears to be empty in the atom are electrical waves, what some people refer to as a mini tornado. And it is those waves that constitutes everything in the universe. The universe is made of waves of energy. And with the first one being what is known as the cosmic microwave background, which is like the first light that manifested at the Big Bang. So this makes it fairly clear that if we are looking for God, we have to find God in the realms of energy, because everything that exists is energy. And in finding God, it does not appear to me as if we can look for God in the form of an egregore of any culture, nation, or religion. It does not matter what the nation or religion calls itself. So if you limit God to the God of either of Israel or of Arochukwu or of any other community or group of people, you are actually honoring an egregore as God. In other words, in order to find God, who is the God that made all things and who is also the one that is controlling all things, that is the maker, the operator of all that exists, you have to look beyond the peculiar cultural story of every religion, because every cultural story of religion is based on mythology. And even when you want to now look at the cultural stories of religions, you have to also look beyond what any particular religion tells you and look at the wider picture. What came before that religion? There is no religion that suddenly sprouted from the ground. It is always built upon that which had pre-existed. So in order to have a rational understanding of what it is that you are referring to when you say God, and who it is that is indeed God, you cannot afford to confine yourself to what any particular set of religious people or cultural organization said that this is what is God, and our ancestors told us it is so, and it is written, and because of that we cannot go away, we cannot depart from it. It must be the same as it was 20,000-30,000 years ago, or 2,000, or 5. It must remain the same. It cannot be so, because a critical understanding of the nature of existence will show you that whether a man is in Russia, India, Indonesia, Nigeria, China, Chad, or whatever place he is on earth, the elements that constitute his body are exactly the same. There may be a variation in the quantity of each element that may constitute maybe the average African type from the average Asian type, or the average type in the Americas or wherever. But it is always the exact same materials. There is no culture in which when they want to plant their crops, they don't look for the earth to till after water has softened it, and then they put their crops there, and then they water it, and then the sun causes there to be growth, and then at the proper season they reap their harvest. There is no group of people where what keeps them alive is not the air that they breathe. The air which they breathe comes, of course, from the oceans and from the sun, as well as from through plants. And a plant is simply light that has been transformed to take the form that it has taken. Water itself is light. We have entered into details of that in previous teachings. And we have even gone into some details of what an atom is. There, you will not have the man who is from Rome, for example, made up of atoms, and then the man who is from Vanuatu is not made up of atoms. In other words, you cannot afford to seek God in anything or any concept or idea that says that if it is not done the way we have said it must be done, then it cannot be done any other way. The simple truth is that if we seek God through the means through which we are supposed to seek God, which is the means of rational understanding, you will discover that the world has always had one religion. And that religion has always been based on cosmology. And scientifically, it cannot be otherwise. Science is very much aware of the fact that atoms that make up the universe are conscious. That has been established beyond reasonable doubt by the double slit experiment. Therefore, the atoms that make up the water, the atoms that make up the earth, the atoms that make up the sun, the atoms that make up the stars, the atoms that make up the human entity, the atoms that make up trees, the atoms that make up animals, they are all conscious. So that necessarily means that the sun, which seeded all life on earth and which governs life on earth in the form of being the means through which life was propagated right from the stages of bacteria onto what we choose to regard as the most complex type of life on earth, being the human entity. Each and every form of life was consciously brought into being by the sun, because the sun itself is conscious. There's a statement in law. It says, Nemo dat quod non habet, which simply means that you cannot give what you do not have. The sun is responsible for the establishment of all life forms on earth, and also in them having a level of consciousness. Consciousness simply means life, like formless awareness. Consciousness is formless awareness. It does not have any particular form. You cannot say that the consciousness is like a tree, or it's like a car, or it's like a house, or it's like the sun. Consciousness is the very concept of being able to be aware. It is awareness, and as you're listening to me, you are aware. So it means that you possess consciousness. And as I've pointed out before, it is established beyond reasonable doubt that atoms possess consciousness. The sun is made up of atoms. You are also made up of atoms. So in taking the steps that resulted in generation of life on earth, the sun was acting consciously. So when you see Psalm 84:11 in the Bible stating that for the Lord God is a sun and shield, it wasn't metaphor. Yes, the Bible is filled with metaphor, it's filled with allegories, as are all other spiritual books. But no matter how much the allegories may be, and no matter how much they may be allegories, one thing is clear: they are always about light, they are about energy. That is why creation was said to begin in the Bible with, and God said, let there be light, and there was light. And in 1 John 1:5, it said that, let us tell you what we have learned about God, that God is light. What that statement means is that conscious intelligence is propagated by the way of light. The divine mind is light. The divine intelligence is light. So your consciousness is literally powered by the light of the sun. The sun is powered by the consciousness that makes up the universe, that propagates all things in the universe. And that consciousness propagates the sun, and through the sun propagates life in the solar system. Solar system means sun system. So when you find out that there are images of obelisks in virtually all the major power centers in the world, and those obelisks are simply symbols of the sun as God, which were set up in ancient Africa. And virtually every power center in the world has one. It is there in Washington, D.C., in New York, in Buenos Aires, in Istanbul, in so many other parts of the world. And even more importantly, it is at the center of the Vatican. When you see that everyone, in one form or shape or the other, is acknowledging the sun as a symbol of divinity, or is using star, moon, and such other energy entities, even if it is human beings, it's still a symbol of energy. Human beings are energy entities. So you have to now find out that you cannot possibly determine God by way of relying on the culture of any set of people, because each particular set of people set up their own egregores, except of course you are now looking at the culture that has been proven to be the first and the oldest of all these cultures, and that is the culture of the Igbo. The Igbo culture is also what is known around the world as the Cushitic Kemetic culture, which reached its peak in ancient Egypt. Ra, by which the sun is known all over Africa and in most parts of the world, is indeed an Igbo word. We refer to the sun in Igbo as Ora, sometimes as Oha. But we have many other names that we also refer to the sun by. But the long and short of it is that in ancient times, long before any civilization that the general populace has been told about, the Igbos refer to themselves as the children of the sun. And the more scientists investigate about the origins of man, the more they end up confirming that human beings, animals, and trees, and all living things on earth are offsprings of the sun. And you do not have any culture having their own different sun, or any culture having their own different water, or any culture having their own different earth, or any culture having their own separate hydrogen. In other words, when you see cultures coming together to celebrate a holiday that is centered on the sun, but they are celebrating it under different names and giving it different titles, it is simply because the people who control human beings deceived human beings into believing that there can genuinely be different gods. And because of that, there can be genuinely be different religions. There can be genuinely different faiths. And if you do not comply with the statement of faith of any particular group, then you will go to the hell of that group or religion. But I have not seen anybody being worried, maybe perhaps like a Christian, being worried of going to the hell of Muslims, or the Muslims being worried about going to the hell of the Hindus. Yet, nobody wants to think a little bit deeper, go the step further, and discover that in no religion can you avoid water rituals, sun symbols, symbols of light, fire, and stuff like that. Christmas is actually winter solstice, which is an event that occurs regarding the sun. On the 21st of December every year, the sun that had been moving southward after the summer solstice, which usually happens in late June, where the sun, after having moved north consistently for 6 months, hits the final point where it can move no further north. It begins to come south. Now, it hits the last point south on the 21st of December, and there is a 3-day turnover period. On the 22nd, 23rd, and 24th of December, the sun rises exactly from the same spot. It does not move either north or south, but ordinarily, every day, the sun moves 1 degree, either north or south. Now, for those 3 days and 3 nights, being the 22nd, the 23rd, and the 24th of December, the ancients who always track the movement of the sun noticed that the sun was no longer moving, and that on the 25th, the sun now begins to move by moving 1 degree north on its way back to the northern hemisphere. The ancients then said that the Son of God died on the cross. And the reason why they said the Son died on the cross is that the place where the sun is, even as I speak now, is where is known as the Southern Crux constellation. Crux is spelled C-I-U-X, Southern Crux constellation. And it is in that constellation that the sun is when for 3 days and 3 nights between 21st December when it last moved and the 25th of December when it now moves again on its way back to the north. Now, that's why the sun is said to have died on the cross. And then, not be having moved for 3 days and 3 nights, it is said to have been buried in the bowels of the earth, where it lay dead for 3 days and 3 nights. And then, as it moves 1 degree north on the 25th of December, the sun is said to be reborn. It's to be born again and born anew. And as it is returning to the northern hemisphere, it's coming with life and sustenance, because at this point in time in winter in the northern hemisphere, all the vegetations have dried up and there's no rain, even though there may be snow, but there's no rain, there's no water with which the plants can thrive, and there is not sufficient time of sunlight so that the plants can grow. But as the sun begins to come up to the north again, it will get to the equator around between 19th and 22nd March, which is what is called the spring equinox, and after which the sun will pass over onto the northern hemisphere, and that is where you get Passover from. And it is also that period that Easter and other spring-related festivals are celebrated. So, without having exhausted the point, I will say that it is necessary to know what egregores are. And it is necessary also to understand why there is a move towards one world religion. And we will explain that in detail in the second part of this series. But at least from the things that we have looked at, you can see that everybody should feel free to celebrate the Yuletide, Christmas, winter solstice, because it is indeed the festival of the entirety of humanity. It does not belong to any group or any race, just as the sun does not belong to any group or any race. If anything, the human beings would rather belong to the sun rather than the sun belonging to a particular set of human beings. The entirety of human beings belong to the sun, because the sun played a key and conscious role in bringing all human beings, animals, and plants into existence. And you may also have noticed that the Christmas tree always has a star on top of it. That star represents the sun. Thank you once again for having joined us. And we know that we have raised several controversial issues in this part of this series. Keep the questions coming, keep your comments coming, and we shall deal with the issues that arise from what we have discussed in this portion in the next portion. And there is so much more that we have to offer you on this channel. Please like and share and subscribe, and as much as possible, let us have your questions. Let us have areas of confusion where you need clarification, because we didn't embark on this journey of our own accord, and it wasn't a decision lightly taken to teach the things that the divine has deemed it fit to make known to us. We are willing to address any issue whatsoever that may arise from that which we are teaching, because we are teaching with reasonable certainty that what we are teaching can be verified. Have a blessed Yuletide. Thank you for joining us.